and welcome back to our 30 Days of Holiday Prep series here on the Mod Assistance channel. We are so excited for today's video because we will be talking about several options of dishes that you can meal prep and prepare in advance for your holiday table. We are all about making the holiday season as easy as possible while still keeping it delicious and festive. So these meals will tick all of those boxes and keep you from being too stressed out when it comes to the big holiday meal. So let's get right into it. Deviled eggs, while old school in some people's minds, remain a traditional holiday appetizer for so many families. And they are great for meal prep because they can be completely made ahead of time and left in the refrigerator, and they are still perfectly fresh and delicious when served a few days later. The key to a good deviled egg is, of course, to cook it correctly. In the recipe that we'll include in the description below, it walks you through the method that we prefer to create the perfect deviled eggs. We also found a recipe for these holiday deviled eggs that use an Instant Pot. So if that is something you have in your household, that's another option to get a really well-cooked hard-boiled egg. These are, of course, holiday themed because they incorporate the red and green colors of the holiday season, using pomegranate seeds and some green from a couple pieces of parsley. Now, we found several different holiday deviled egg recipes online. The one you'll see in the description box is the one that we liked the most because of the ingredients that they use in the mix for the deviled eggs. When you're incorporating the sweetness and the freshness of the pomegranate seeds and the parsley, we think it's really important to have certain flavors within the creamy mixture itself for it all to balance. And we found this recipe to be our favorites to work well with the parsley and the pomegranate. For the perfect deviled eggs, you don't want to prep too far in advance or you'll have a dried out filling or possibly some stinky boiled egg whites. For the best results, you want to prep your deviled eggs up to 2 days in advance, and you'll keep the egg whites and the filling separate until you're ready to serve. All in all, this is a really fun and festive recipe to serve as an appetizer for your holiday meal. Another really classic traditional recipe are sausage stuffed mushrooms as an appetizer. We love this recipe because it is truly packed with flavor and is very easy to prep ahead of time. Even those of your guests that might not claim to love mushrooms tend to like this recipe because the mushrooms are roasted and the sausage used in the stuffing packs a really big flavorful punch. If you want to get really far in advance, really ahead of it, you can actually brown the sausage up to 3 months in advance. Then you're going to keep it in an airtight freezer-safe storage container or Ziploc bag in the freezer. 1 day before you'd like to finish the recipe, you let that fully cooked sausage thaw out overnight. The stuffed mushrooms can be made up to 1 day in advance and then reheated the next day. Be sure to refrigerate them in an airtight storage container overnight. And then up to 6 hours in advance, prepare the recipe as directed up until the baking step. Cover and refrigerate the stuffed mushrooms in the baking dish until you're ready to bake. We even decided to keep the presentation really casual and easy for this appetizer, serving it in the dish that we baked it in the dish that you possibly stored it in the refrigerator to keep it nice and casual and easy for everyone. And like we said earlier, it was a crowd pleaser. Now let's talk main dishes. We had to go with a brisket option. Again, a classic for the holiday season. This brisket with carrots and potatoes was fantastic for make-ahead meal prep because most of the heavy lifting can be done in advance. And then the day of, you really just have to heat it up in the oven for just about an hour. So as you'll see here, we are getting the brisket completely ready to go. We first browned it to add that extra flavor, and then we're going to put together the sauce in the same pan that we browned the meat in. This sauce incorporates red wine, tomatoes, garlic, onions, paprika, lots of deep, delicious flavors just to add to the already delicious brisket itself. Once you have that sauce ready to go, you're going to put the brisket back into the pot that you cooked it in, sprinkle on the seasoning mixture, add in your onions all around, and get it back in the oven. After it's cooked for a couple hours, you take it back out and pop in your carrots and potatoes, which will eventually work as your side dish, and get it back in the oven for another couple of hours. Now here's the part where the meal prep comes in. Once you get through that second session of baking, you're going to let it cool completely and put the brisket, sauce, potatoes, and carrots in an airtight storage container in the refrigerator. And that's where you're going to leave it overnight or up to 2 days in advance. Then you're going to pull it back out, and it's going to be a lot easier to slice once it's cold. After you slice up the brisket, you're going to pop it into your baking dish, cover it with the sauce, potatoes, and carrots, and get it back into the oven to warm up for just about an hour. And then it is ready to serve. This recipe was absolutely delicious and a favorite for us for a make-ahead holiday meal. For our second main dish option, we went with this garlic, brown sugar, bacon-wrapped pork tenderloin. This is an extra special pork tenderloin. You might be thinking to yourself, pork tenderloin can be very basic and boring, but not this one. This one was packed full of flavor of garlic, brown sugar, rosemary, and of course the delicious bacon on top. Everything's better with bacon. We all know that. This was a good option for a make-ahead meal because you can prep the tenderloin with the seasoning ahead of time and actually let it rest in the refrigerator up to a day in advance where it is marinating with the flavors. So that's only going to intensify the flavors. It's another good option because pork tenderloin cooks rather quickly. So this recipe calls for it to bake in the oven at 425 for only about 25 minutes, depending on the size and the thickness of the pork tenderloin you're using. But it really does not take a lot of time, so you can take that time to prep ahead. And when you're ready to pop it in the oven, it's going to be good to be on your table in just about 30 minutes. For a unique side dish, how about these balsamic sour cream sweet potatoes? Any kind of mashed potato or mashed sweet potato is a really good option for make-ahead meal prep and a great side to serve because it can generally be left alone, left to sit once it's warmed up until you're ready to serve the meal. So it really isn't a high maintenance recipe to put together for a holiday meal when you might have a lot going on. For make-ahead, the sweet potatoes can be baked up to 5 days in advance and stored in a sealed container in the refrigerator. You'll want to peel and mash the potatoes, then reheat them over medium-low heat on the stovetop when you're ready to finish and serve. We recommend peeling the potatoes when they are still warm. Yes, it's a little warm on your fingertips, but it makes it a lot easier to get the peels off in one large piece. When you're ready to serve, you're just going to stir in the balsamic and sour cream, mash it up, make it nice and creamy, and the flavors from both the balsamic and sour cream mixed with the sweet potatoes really make an interesting flavor profile, and they're a delicious side dish for any main dish that you're serving. To serve with the other elements in your meal, you need a bread, and we immediately look toward this homemade rosemary focaccia. Yes, it is a homemade bread, but stick with us because this recipe could not be easier. And it is absolutely a beginner-friendly bread recipe because it consists of simple ingredients and you don't need any special equipment. Why this recipe makes such a good option for a make-ahead meal is because it actually gets better the more you let it sit. If you are able to allow the dough to rest for as little as 18 hours in the fridge, but even up to 72 hours, the more it sits, the bubblier it's going to get and the better it's going to rise and create this really nice fluffy bread. So we made this bread 72 hours in advance from our meal, and the day of we were able to really easily put it together, pop it in the oven, and it came out nice and toasty brown with lots of salt and rosemary on top. And it really was an excellent addition to the meal that we had with all of our other main dish, sides, and salads. All of our family and friends really enjoyed it, kids included. So do not be afraid about making a homemade bread if you are not used to it. If you'd like to try it, this is definitely the recipe to try because it is so easy and you can really let it sit and do its own thing in the fridge for up to 3 days in advance. So definitely try this one. Let us know in the comments if you did and if it was worth it, if it worked for you on the first try. We know you can do it. We hope you enjoyed those options for some make-ahead dishes for your upcoming holiday meal. If you have any go-to recipes that you love for the holiday season that can be prepared in advance, please leave them in the comments below so we can all share and enjoy each other's knowledge. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel before you leave so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos we have in the next week leading up to Christmas Day. And we'll see you in tomorrow's video.